presentation.
Yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen. Hope everybody can see that. So, yeah, I'm Dr. Max Cropper, and I'll introduce myself briefly. So I've been involved with ISPI for about, I don't know, since about 1984, off and on. And so, so I've seen presentations by Tom Gilbert and, Judy Hill back in that day, and she's still around, and Joe Harless, and anyway, some of the founders, Bob Mager, and others. And anyway, so over the years, my focus has been instructional design, instructional strategy design, and I've studied with some of the top instructional strategy experts. I've done a fair amount of work with the government and the military, with various educational institutions. Utah State, I got a doctorate there, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Currently, I am the CEO of 5-Star Performance Solutions, and I sponsor workshops on best practice instructional strategies, performance improvement, leadership development. Tim.
Hey everyone, I'm Tim Stafford. I am the director. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. Okay. I am the director of online graduate education, academic affairs at St. Thomas University. I'm also the director of the MS in Instructional Design and Technology program at St. Thomas and the Office of Graduate Education and Research at St. Thomas. And so we currently oversee most everything that's happening online with graduate students. We're a part of that. And then I also have a consulting business, RU Institute, which we work with all different kinds of institutions and also small businesses, but mostly institutions and learning organizations to help them um, bring artificial intelligence into their instructional design uh, workflows. And so I also sponsor a lab as a part of RU Institute. I sponsor a lab called AI Learning Lab, and we're in development of all sorts of different kinds of tools and things. And so that's what we're busy doing.
Yeah, and Tim and I sponsor a mastermind group that focuses on first principles AI tools and other AI, cutting edge AI. So uh, anyway, that's kind of fun. But we'll be talking about some of those tools today. But Tim and I connected a few years ago on first principles of instruction, Merrill's first principles of instruction, and then we've collaborated over the years. Uh, and then Tim's developed these first principles AI tools, which make it much easier to design first principles instruction. So that being said, I'll give a little bit of background on first principles of instruction. And so ultimately, we're talking about applying Merrill's first principles of instruction, which I think is the best instructional design theory. And anyway, but Tim has added AI tools, and so that'll be kind of fun today because we'll get into those tools a little bit. So a little bit of background. So in 2002, I went back for a doctorate degree at Utah State University, and Dr. Joanne Bentley and Dr. David Merrill were two of my advisors. And since that time, I finally graduated in 2011 with the PhD. And since that time, Dr. Bentley and I have facilitated a number of workshops at the Association for Educational Communications and Technology. And then in 2019, and Merrill, some years he'd facilitate a workshop, and we kind of alternated unofficially for a few years. But in 2019, he joined us. And so beginning in 2019 and on through 2025, we've been facilitating workshops on how to apply Merrill's first principles of instruction. And Merrill was with us the first 3 years, and then joined us again in 2025 when uh, Tim Stafford joined us, and he so during this workshop, Tim had participants. It was a 4-hour workshop. Tim's had participants download First Principles AI tools. In about an hour, they designed courses. Each participant designed a course using these tools, and then we had them share their course designs. And so these tools are really powerful. And part of the power is you don't have to fully understand Merrill's First Principles, but you still have to be very smart to coach the AI the AI tool. So the other individuals here, Rio McBride, he's been involved since 2019. Rio has redesigned 4 master's program courses at Full Sail University based on Merrill's First Principles. And Rebecca Meter has been involved with it. She's done similar work on a couple of courses, and they're still working on some. And then Christopher Keys, he's finishing up a second master's degree, and he co-facilitated with me in 2024 at ACT. That was in Kansas City. So, but let me tell you a couple of stories, okay, about Merrill's First Principles. So Dr. Merrill, over the years since the 70s, has developed instructional design theories. And early on, he recognized the importance of demonstration and practice, which was not original with him. But a lot of people have never figured out that you need to have demonstration and application. And fortunately, many of us have, but so in about year 2000, after there'd been kind of a Cold War between constructivists and cognitivists at ACT, and towards the end of that time, they realized, okay, we're saying same things, different people are doing different things as part of this theory, but Dr. Childs Reigeluth who had been one of Merrill's doctoral students at BYU, had gone on to publish some books on different instructional design theories. So about 2000, Merrill was talking to him. He says, Charlie, he still called him Charlie because he was one of his students. He says, Charlie, there's only one instructional design theory. And Reigeluth says, well, I don't agree with you, but why don't you write a paper about it? And so in 2002, Merrill wrote First Principles of Instruction. And I had been teaching some other instructional design theories, Merrill and Guilford and Gagne and Bloom and so on and so forth, and Allington, some really good instructional design theories. And then took me a little while, I realized, this Merrill's First Principles eclipses and incorporates the most important instructional design theories. Then for my doctoral dissertation, we evaluated some online courses. Merrill created a First Principles 5-star rubric, and we evaluated some online courses using his rubric. And we had 3 other comparison course evaluation rubrics. Anyway, so Merrill was the baseline evaluator for his rubric, and 6 of the 10 online university courses that we evaluated, he gave 0 points out of 100 points possible for these courses. So he has 0 patience for information only courses, and 4 of those courses didn't have enough information online to validly evaluate them, so we had to exclude them. But that was another problem. There just wasn't some courses when they go online are really skimpy. So, but the point is Merrill says you have to teach with real world tasks, real world scenarios, and real world problems. And so this is an overview. This is an example of a course I developed for the Veterans Administration. for treating tinnitus patients. And tinnitus is a ringing in the ears that's common among military veterans. And it's a noise or ringing in the ears that doesn't go away. And so I helped, they had some assets and I put together a course based on Merrill's first principles. So the first principle is that instruction and learning should be based on real world tasks, real world problems, significant real world tasks, problems, scenarios. And Merrill talks about using whole tasks. So we're not talking about small tasks, we're talking about significant accomplishments. And so it's really important to identify the right real world task. And then he says you should provide activation, which is activating, what the learners already know and what they can already do. So in this case, the task was to treat tinnitus patients effectively. And then the activation, we had a video of a tinnitus patient named Sam. And I sort of did a pretest, but not officially. But so I'd probably provide a pretest because the audience is doctors and audiologists and psychologists, group therapists. And I'd probably give them a scenario and say, okay, here's the situation and what would each of you do? But I kind of built that into the instruction. And then I did provide an introduction of the treatment phases so they'd know, okay, this is the base, your own expertise, but these are the phases. So then for demonstration, I provided, a walkthrough demonstration of the primary care provider. Okay, this is what the primary care provider did. And then up to a certain point, I'd go to application. And I'd say, okay, if you're the primary care provider, what would you do? And then I'd go back through the same process, do some demonstration for the audiologist, and then go back to application after, so these are the tests that the audiologist did for application. Okay, what would you do if you were the audiologist? And then I did the same thing, demonstration for the group therapists. And then, okay, what would you do if you were the group therapist? And then also with the psychologist and audiologists, with some demonstration and some application. And then for integration, these doctors and audiologists, group therapists and psychologists would be dealing with the patients in real life. But the point is, Merrill felt these were the most important principles of instruction. And he had secondary principles, which sound a lot like Gagne, which are good, but very few instructional theorists have included the importance of real world tasks. And there are a few of them, but they're not the typical ones that most of us know about. All right. So teaching with real world tasks is very important. So that being said, Merrill's written a couple of books that are still in print. His revised edition of First Principles of Instruction, and then his instructional design theory book, which is basically a publication of his papers. But again, Merrill has not thrown out the baby with the bathwater. His early instructional micro theories, component display theory, component design theory, instructional transaction theory, he has kept the most important aspects of those in his First Principles of Instruction. So that being said, how effective are First Principles of Instruction? So Dr. Ted Frick has been doing research studies since early 2000, dealing with First Principles of Instruction. Anyway, some of his recent research in the last few years, he's been researching the effectiveness of First Principles of Instruction in conjunction with an online Indiana University plagiarism tutorials and tests program. So this plagiarism program is basically, it has instruction based on first principles, and then participants or students can take certification tests to, again, certify that they understand different types of plagiarism, etc. So again, the instruction was developed based on first principles of instruction, and then Frick has been able to evaluate how effective this is by tracking students uh, through individual learning track for each student. He knows that he was able to track exactly where they went, what they did, how long they were there, and whether they were able to pass the certification test. So a little bit about the student use. They're able to access this program at this website, and the students are free to choose as much first principles instruction as they want. They don't have to take any of the instruction. About half of the visitors to this site take certification tests. About 95% of registered students do it because of an assignment or requirement from their instructor or school. And they can take as many certification tests as they want. They must correctly answer at least 9 out of 10 randomly selected questions to pass a certification test. But more than 1.36 million certificates have been awarded since 2016. So this is a massive, massive sample size. So what are the results? So adult students who tried any part of the online tutorials designed with first principles of instruction were about 7.3 times more likely to master the learning objective when compared with adults who had not tried any part of the first principles instruction. 7.3 times. So just beyond comprehension. There's a Goldilocks effect. Students choose what's just right for them so that they can pass the test, which is typical. The researchers have been able to observe 68,000 learning journeys. Again, just amazing. And then from achievers from 190 countries. So the effectiveness, again, it'd be fun to create, to perform many more studies, but the face validity alone is significant with Merrill's first principles. But Tim and I and others have experienced the effectiveness of applying Merrill's first principles. So that being said, what if we could provide AI tools to help design first principles of instruction? And so Tim's going to show us some of these tools.
Okay, well, thanks, Max. So yeah, let me just put this into a little bit of perspective or context, I guess is the best, is that for me, this is not so much about artificial intelligence as it is its positioning and how we position AI in order to be able to help um, create opportunities for people to design coursework in a freer environment. And here's what I mean by that. Having done instructional design myself for many, many years and having been worked with faculty members and SMEs, um, there's a fairly robust list, but there's kind of a core list of what I would call low-hanging fruit issues that when I first started working with artificial intelligence in 2023, I realized that, wow, there is an opportunity here to really get at these low-hanging fruit issues that kind of tend to kibosh the process of designing coursework. And one of those is what I call blank page syndrome. You have an SME that knows a lot about the subject, for instance, but they don't necessarily know how to get started if you give them a blank page. That kind of thing. And so over time, I was trying to figure out what's the best way for me to be able to apply what it is that AI does in a way that would make it a usable and something that becomes tool worthy for the kinds of things that we do as instructional designers. And then I started to test it. I started to test my ideas on my own people at the university, and we kind of came, um, we just kind of came to this place. And at the same time, introduce, how can I found it on the idea of first principles so that it becomes a part of everything that we do? And so in no way have I designed anything or has there ever even been the thought in my mind that we would be replacing people? It's really not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is position the AI so that we can reposition people into places that because they're efficient in one place, they can put their energy into another that would be more human. That's very important. And then the other thing is that we basically, everything that we design is based on the idea of what we call the hi-ho framework. One of the things that's really important that you understand is that I had no intention of I just kind of want to develop some tools that I thought would be helpful to my own context. I had no idea that this is what I would be doing later. So this is all fun. This is interesting. It's fun that this is happening. I also had no idea that I would become an AI ethicist. No idea that was going to happen. And suddenly I'm traveling all over talking about AI ethics. So so I immediately did what all great ethicists do. They make a model. So I made this model called the HIHO framework, which is stands for human in dash human oversight, or human out, if you want to look at it that way, but human oversight. The dash is the work of the AI. So the idea is everything that I design is based on the idea that the human has to put something into it, and then the AI does something with that it's been trained to do by the humans. So even the AI is trained in that way. And then the AI, and then what gets produced from the AI then has to be overseen by the human, and the decision on how they're going to use that going forward is the humans. In my mind, that's the most ethical way to do this, so that the AI is not replacing the human, but the AI is now a partner, a tool. It's a help, but it's not replacing. And of course, we're seeing some things in higher ed that that students are trying to cut the human out, and we're dealing with those things. But we're not really talking about that today. But I just want you to understand these are kind of the frameworks that we're building. These are conceptually the frameworks that we're working with all the time. And so when you see these things and when you use one of these tools of ours, that's really been the brain and the heart behind it at the same time. So having said that, I'll move on here to this. Hopefully I don't mess this up. Okay. And so our goal is to build learning that's better, faster. That's really it. If we're trying to figure out how to be more efficient, but not at the cost of good production, not at the cost of excellence, but we do think that we can help make things a little bit more efficient. And so the reality is, as I talked about before, is that most training is kind of built fast, you know, and this is true not only in corporate, where I've done a lot of work in corporate, but also it's also true, very true in the world of higher ed. And I graduated from grad school in 2014, and and in 2020, and everybody told me basically I was crazy to study instructional design for online learning. That my work, my focus on online learning, they just thought that was crazy. They just thought in 2014, everybody thought that was crazy. You're just nuts. Why are you doing that? I said, I don't know. There's something to this. There's something to it. I don't know what it is, but I can feel it. And then 2020 hit, and I went from being, the guy that everybody said, we don't know if you're ever going to make any money, to the guy that everybody was calling. And now what are we going to do? And so what happened was, especially K-12 and higher ed, what we saw was everything had to be built fast. And then we found out in 2022 how bad it all was. It's just a disaster, right? And so for the last 4 years, we've been trying to fix everything we did in a year. And so, and the only reason I bring that up is because that's really what we're talking about here. We tend to have this idea that we're on fire, and we have to have these tight deadlines and content heavy courses and low engagement. We have all these issues that we're trying to deal with. And we kind of adopt the minimum viable product model for learning. And to the minimum viable product model for a toaster is okay, as long as the toaster doesn't catch fire, right? But the minimum viable product model for learning is a little bit stinted because we're going to have problems. And if we're not ready to look at it, we're going to have limited performance impact. And so the real cost then, when the design is weak, is that everything downstream suffers. And so it suffers in ways that a lot of people don't exactly know how to monetize. But if you, like me, have worked on these projects, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. Rework and revisions, very expensive. Um, Frustrated stakeholders, very expensive. I mean, to the point that, they'll give up. They'll just go on to something else. It's the shiny object, right? They'll just go for the next shiny object and move on because they don't want to get bogged down in getting this stuff done. They just want to get it done. Poor learner outcomes, if any learning outcomes, poor learner outcomes. This week I went to the 95th version of teaching faculty how to build learning outcomes, and I finally just decided. I got with my team and I basically said, we got to build we got to build something. We got to build something that helps faculty members build outcomes. I don't know. We just got to build something because this isn't working. But we can just get these terrible outcomes. And I think we were talking about it earlier before everybody got on with Scott that, you know, they we come up with these crazy things, like I think he said something about one of the military organizations is coming up with something like digital innovation. Well, how do you measure that? How do you measure if something was digitally innovative or not? I mean, what are the markers? And so that's a lot of times we hit these kinds of issues, and then what happens is we miss business goals, and everybody's upset, and money is flowing off the table, and that's the real cost. But I think we can look at that, but we could also have to look at where it really breaks down because the hardest part is starting a lot of times and structuring what we already know. So blank page syndrome is a real thing. I mean, I've seen so many times where we have the premier botanist on staff who study red velvet roses, and we want to build a course around that, and we say, okay, why don't you give us an idea of what that looks like? And that person can't even get started. They don't even know. They're looking at a blank page and they're freezing. And I learned this when I was the technical director of a firm for 10 years. I learned that experts are incredibly good at being an expert and they're incredibly bad about writing about it. And so I had to a lot of times start something for them, or I had to pull an old report and let them pick it apart or whatever I had to do. And so that's one problem that we have with blank page syndrome. Because we have that problem, then we get unclear course flow. And the unclear course flow is really important because then it just doesn't make sense. The course doesn't make sense. And the way that the course is structured doesn't make sense. And the way that the assessments are put together doesn't make sense. And then again, we have difficulty writing objectives and resources. And so we just don't even know, well, I really need a resource that's this, but now we're talking about writing more and how are we going to do that? And so comes down to, we get stuck in this rut of we don't really even know what to include in this course. And then all of a sudden we start having these conversations about how are we going to get this done on time? And everybody's frustrated and panicked. And yet, the registrar or whoever has got to run this course in 6 weeks, and we don't know how it's going to make it. And so there's just this gap. There's this gap that exists because expertise doesn't automatically translate into learning. And so SMEs know the content, but they don't always know how to teach it. And even if they know it and they know how to teach it, that doesn't mean they know how to make a course. And so, but on the other side, course designers know how to design, but they don't know all the subjects. I mean, I have incredible instructional designers, but they'll tell you all day long that I don't know anything about botany, but I don't need to for my job. And so there's this partnership that has to evolve, but a lot of times it's difficult. It's hard to get it to go. And so that alignment takes time and it slows everything down. And so even the experts, and this is what's really interesting, is over the time that I've been working with these experts, I've noticed something that even the experts miss things because experience doesn't always eliminate the blind spots. Like for instance, misjudging learner prior knowledge. I can't tell you how many times I've had this conversation with as I've been overseeing a course because at St. Thomas I've probably overseen, I don't know, 500 or 600 courses that have been built over the last 8 or 9 years. I've been there 10 years. I've been doing that for about 8 or 9 of it. So probably 5 or 6, maybe 700 courses. And I'll ask the SME, so are you sure that every student is going to come in with this knowledge? Well, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine they wouldn't. Well, I can imagine they would. So we have to be sure, right? Or weak scaffolding, like, but how are they going to know that for this step? Where did we get that? Was it before? Can't tell you how many times an assessment will be in week 2, for instance, or in module 2, and the piece of literature that they need for that to scaffold it is in week 5 because they just didn't realize that that wasn't happening. I mean, happens all the time. And so, and then of course there's always limited, because of the way that our educational system has been, there's been limited practice and demonstration. There's limited practice, like it's not uncommon for us to lecture. It's not uncommon for us, even if in like science classes, for them to demonstrate something themselves, blow up something or make smoke come out of something or do something. But there's limited practice and demonstration from the students. Usually the students are just there to observe and then they leave. And then misalignment between the objectives and the activities. This is a huge fight. How do we know that this activity is going to make this objective come true, or that this assessment, this is the next one, that this assessment or evaluation does this actually assess what you're actually trying to get? And how does this all work itself back to the objectives, and then little connection to any kind of performance outcomes? Amazing to me how many times we have outcomes in a course that have nothing to do with performance. It just has to do with, performance, there are verbs attached, but I don't mean really, was I able to pass an exam? Was I able to write a paper? I mean, could I actually do something? Recently, I worked on a simulator for a consulting course for the doctoral program in education. And the simulator simulates a client. And one of the students wrote me and said, I don't know where we got this simulator from, but for the very first time in my entire higher educational career, I finally understand what matters about the theory because I actually had to apply it. That's what I'm talking about. If we don't have connection to actual performance outcomes, then we don't really know if just because they can pass a test on what the theory says doesn't mean that they know how to apply it. And so these are the kinds of the blind spots that I think FPI can help us with, but I think that AI can also help point it out. And so there's a shift that has to happen. What if effective design was built into that workflow? So in other words, what if there was a partner? Think of it as a really, really really smart grad student who could ask the right questions or look for the blind spots. And so you'd be starting with a structure and not a blank page. You could be looking for clear learning design because you can turn the expertise of the literature of best practices. You could use that as you're designing a course, or you could get guidance on anything when you needed it. If you're looking for alignment issues, or if you're looking for performance outcomes or whatever, or you can move faster with confidence and direction. And so that's the idea. The solution is a guided course design, step by step, turning expertise into structured learning, getting help with technical design tasks, building momentum quickly, and staying aligned from start to finish. It's a partner. It's another set of digital eyes, but it's not cutting out the humans here. It's just allowing the humans to see the things that maybe they would have missed otherwise. And so what makes this difference? Because it's not just about AI. I think the thing about it is that if you look at marketing right now, all we're really talking about is we're using AI for this and we're using AI for that and we're using and that's fine. I mean, it's fine. We're in that mode right now. And of course, we're also in the Chicken Little mode where people are running away saying it's going to kill us all. But right now, what happens here is this is not just AI, this is a theory. I'm sorry. It's not just AI and it's not just a theory. This is a marriage of something that the idea is that it can be usable in actual praxis. And so building on proven learning principles like FPI, we embed it into a simple tool that can be used by anybody, and it doesn't take a whole lot of understanding or it's a pretty simple idea designed for real world constraints. So, things like, Maybe it's not necessarily something you have to download or you have to have a certain type of operating system, or you got to be able to understand what people are going to need. Um, and then guides thinking, not just content creation. The thing of, putting something in and having it write a paragraph for you, that's nice if you're trying to make sure that your typing is okay on your emails, but we're not looking for it to create the content as much as we are trying to get it to guide your thinking in the sense that it can help you get organized and it can help you put things together. Early on, when we were first testing these theories that I had about this, I would get with an SME, and I would just put in, uh, botany 101 course, 8 weeks, simple skeletal outline for me, and it would just give that to me, and I would hand that to the SME, and I would say, here, I just got to put a skeleton together for you, and just tell me what you think about this. And they would hate it. Almost 100% of the time they would hate it, but they would turn it around faster because now they had something to start with. And so it didn't matter to me that they hated it. What mattered to me was that it was more efficient. And I was finding that, wow, they're getting this done faster because now they know it's not, and they have something to start with, and they're scratching it out, they're printing it, they're bringing back to me all scratched out and written. It looked like Beethoven's work. But but it was a start, and their mind was going, and it was going, but I didn't hand them a blank page. That was the very first stuff that we were doing, and now we're quite a ways along from that. And so here's what the outcome is. Expertise doesn't automatically translate into learning. So we got to look at faster development. Our users are reporting at least a 30% efficiency in design. It's more than that, but I like to be conservative with these numbers. Um, Stronger engagement. Our users report better engagement and deliverables from the SMEs, just like I just explained to you. Greater design confidence. Our users are reporting that they are creating better designs and redesigns and improved performance outcomes. Our users are reporting better alignments, tighter assessments, and performance standards. A lot of our instructional designers are saying, man, this is making a huge difference in us getting our courses tight and the alignments tight. So here's what's next for y'all. This QR code right now, you take a second, scan this QR code. It's going to take you to a place called School. School is where we have our community set up where everything kind of lies. I'll go there in just a second, but it's free to join. There's nothing, no cost for you. You can just join. And if you go to School and you sign up for the free, I'll go there in just a second and let you in. It's going to tell you that you need my permission. So just do that right now. And so when you go there, it's going to look something like this, and you'll sign up. And once I have you come in, you'll start to see yourself show up here in a minute because this is live right now. You'll come to this community. This is what it'll look like when you log in after you've been accepted. And what you want to do is you want to look for Elmo. I just can't make it any easier than that. Look for Elmo, click on Elmo, and then you can click any of these links. There's a link here. You can hit see more, and there's a link here, but just click on this link, and it's going to take you to this FPI course evaluator that's free for all of you. And so by just signing into that school, and I'll give you access in just a few minutes, and when I'm finished here and Max takes back over, I'll go in and accept all of you. So just go ahead and just log in to the free version. You'll have access to this, and this sits in ChatGPT. It's written in OpenAI. Most everything that I'm doing right now is in a combination of engines, but this is written only in ChatGPT. You do not have to have a pro version to use it. It's just sitting out there in the open. However, I do want to say this one thing just so that I can sleep better tonight. This is not it is not void of the public databases. Okay, so don't upload anything into this that would be proprietary. We do have a version of this in our tool set that is exceptioned off. We have everything exceptioned off, but this one isn't, but it works really great. And I want to just show you how it basically works. You can use you can upload a course, you can upload a syllabus, You can upload a segment, like just if you wanted to do a particular one particular thing or whatever. I have a course, so I'm going to go to this course, and it's going to talk. It's a little slow when I'm on Zoom, so okay, here we go. So it's going to give me a welcome. It's going to tell me what it's going to do. I'm going to come here to the plus. I'm going to hit add photos. I know that you guys are filming this, so I'm not worried about going too fast. So you can come back and watch it. I'm going to look up my course that I want here, EDT 810. Don't worry, I've gotten permission to use this for tonight. EDT 810 should be here. Oh, here we go. No, that's not it. Where is it? EDT 810. It's so funny how no matter how much I plan, EDT 810, it was right here. Oh, I bet you, is it? Sorry, everybody. Um, Here it is. No, here it is. There it is. Okay. EDT 810. This is a course that I designed for the university, and I got permission from my dean to use it to show you tonight. It's not proprietary, really. So it's going to upload. As soon as it uploads and looks like this, you don't have to tell it anything. It's already been trained. It's trained on in the back end. It's trained on all the things it needs to. So all you have to do is just hit this. And I want you to watch it work. It's going to just do its thing. And it's going to go through and it's going to start. Now, what I want to show you here is it's going to give you an evaluation based on, this is based on the 5-star evaluation tool that Max designed. And it's going to, and that David Merrill and he used, it's very similar to what they used when they were doing it. It's going to give you a score. What's really great about, what's really great about this is that I've been doing a lot of these courses with these workshops with Max, and a lot of people will score their courses much better than they actually are. This one's pretty good. I mean, this one will give you a low score if it's a low score, and it won't if it won't. I happen to get an 86 today, so I guess I'm doing pretty good. But anyway, it kind of shows you, and it gives you the different areas of that Max showed you before. It'll give you the areas: problem-centered, activation, demonstration, application, integration, and it scores you based on those, and it gives you some pre-evaluation kind of right now, and then it kind of shows you some total. But that's really not I mean, that's really not the key here. The key is what it's going to do next. It's going to take each one of those then, each one of these areas, principles, and it's going to score them each. So it's going to show you and it's going to give you an evaluation, and it's going to start telling you all the different things that it finds that are strong. And then it's also going to talk about, here's the however. However, the course occasionally risks becoming reflection heavy instead of problems, rather than consistently problem solution heavy. And so here are some examples it gives. And then it's designed to always give you some reflective questions so that you know where to start. So the idea here is to give you, as the designer, a place to start, but also these become the conversation starters that you can have with your SME. As I've been looking at this, one of the things I want to ask you is, what are the learners required to solve? Where are learners required to solve instructional failures or instructional constraints rather than primarily reflect on them? This course is about instructional design, so that's why it's asking this. Or does reflection consistently emerge from the action and performance? I need to look at that as a designer. Is that real or not? Again, these are just starting the question string to try to make sure that you're looking for any blind spots. It's going to do that for each of these. Here's activation. So this one's a little lower. So there's going to be more things. And so it gives you other comparable frameworks, reflective questions. Then here's demonstration. It's even lower. So this is probably I think this is the lowest thing in my course. And that's so funny because we have such a hard time with demonstration in our educational mind. So I'm typically usually weak here. I have to go back and work on this. And so we do that. We can see this, and then the reflective questions. And then here's the application principle where I'm stronger. It says this is my strongest principle. And so it can talk about all the different things we're doing here. And then the integration principle is high again. So there are the 5 principles and all the stuff, kind of I wouldn't say it's high level, it's probably medium level analysis, both good and bad. And here's a synthesized overall evaluation of the major strengths and the most important reflective tensions. Now, this is where the real secret sauce starts to happen. This is where the sauce gets grandma's special spice blend is right here. Most important, the tensions. Here's a high impact tension, reflection versus demonstration in this course. And so it's going to really start talking about this. Okay, yeah, Max knows how to get a hold of me, Paul. We can talk later. This is a major reflection versus demonstration is a major issue. So this is going to talk a little bit more about that. Here's another one. Here's another high impact identity formation versus real world constraints. So this course strongly develops designer identity, but sometimes abstracts instructional design away from organizational realities. Okay. So these are another thing we need to look at. This is kind of starting to identify the high and low hanging fruit, right? What needs to be addressed maybe first. Conceptual richness versus procedural modeling. But here's where it really, I'm telling you, this is where we do chef's kiss right here. To me, the cascading effects principles. Several weaknesses ripple across multiple principles. Like if we have limited expert modeling, that's going to weaken demonstration. And it's also going to reduce application precision. So now you can see how things are actually, they're symbiotic. This is the kind of stuff that's really hard to see when it's just you doing it. Limited real stakeholder constraints means we're weakening in integration realism. Limited procedural activation means that we're reducing transfer during application. So then it's going to start to tell you what the actual high leverage opportunities are. So if you need to do something right away, this is it. We need to increase explicit expert demonstration and model design reasoning. And so you can do that to strengthen all of these things. And it gives you some examples. And by the way, inside of this tool, you can ask it for more. You can drill down on some of these things and it'll give you more information.
All right. So
And
Erwin's
then,
got a question, then I got a question.
okay,
Erwin, you go first, and then I have my next question.
sure. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Erwin.
So here's where the connection is missing for me. So a course outline usually goes, down a long column, week 1 or session 1, session 2, session 3. So there's content in each of those areas. You've just shown me a list of feedback about this thing over here. How do I map from here back to what my structure is?
I guess I don't understand what you're asking me.
He's saying that he's dealing with modules.
Well, I'm dealing with modules.
Oh, so basically, what Tim is saying to Erwin is
Oh,
the tool will look at the various modules and determine the strengths of each modules and the overall, strengths and weaknesses of the whole course.
yeah, I could, yeah, there is a way to do that. So like, for instance, right. So what we could do is, yeah, I know what you're asking me. Okay. Right. So I can put here, it's not, I mean, this does this, but then it's because it's just giving it's like giving the high level overview of the whole thing. And so if I put something here, like, so let's go by module or week or whatever, then it's going to start to go module by module now. And so now we'll talk about module 1 evaluation, and it's going to do each one of those things by module. So if that's the way you need to get back to your whatever your course map looked like, this is the way to do it. You just ask it to do it by module, and it's going to convert everything to the modules.
So my question is that, did you get your question?
Go ahead, Scott.
Ask your AI, based on this course map, what are the real world tasks? Because this is a course about instructional design theory, and I'd be interested to know if it could come up with some real world tasks. Because most real world, nobody, instructional designers don't use instructional design theory that much, but I'd be
Yeah.
interested to see on that because that's about the first principles is you have to focus on a real world task. And like you pick something called instructional design theory, which is like that doesn't sound very real world taskish, but let's ask your AI based on this
Yeah.
course map, what are the real world tasks here? Because
Right.
it said it was low on demos, so it's like it would probably tell you, well, here's the ones that you need to focus on.
Yeah, I'll do that in just a second. I just want you to I want to make sure that I give this perspective. This is designed to just take a course that already exists and give it a rating.
Yeah.
Well, I have a tool, like for instance, I have a tool in the toolbox that does task analysis. That's what it does. It does that well, and it also does progression of problems. So I'll do it. I'll show you what it does. I haven't designed this to do that.
Oh no,
It will do
I
it.
didn't expect to. I
Yeah.
don't know what it was. I was going to test it out and see
Right.
how well, because if you give it a rubric and a scale, I just want to know how well it'll do the next part. It's just like, again, you're looking for feedback on stuff and something to,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
I wanted to, I'd be just interested to see, again, it's like human in, human out. We gave it a course map. We could give it a horrendous course map and it could tell us, I can't identify any real world tasks in this. This thing is all knowledge based, but that's not going to be the case in this one because it scored well.
Right. So let's see.
Got some
Yeah. So here we go. So here's the real world task in module 1.
articulating a professional design philosophy. Yeah, you probably have to do that in an interview. That's authentic. That's something you probably actually have to do.
Right. Evaluating ethical AI
Integration. That's a good one.
public professional communication via medium. This must be they're doing something there.
Providing theory-based peer feedback. That's good.
Synthesizing theory into design language.
What is not? Oh, that's good. What is it not? What is not yet a fully real task? These are the more reflective performance. Oh, here you go.
Yeah,
Yeah. These are things that are like in the course, and it's just like
exactly.
those aren't real world. So that's good. I mean, those could be activities, but they don't reflect the real world stuff. So that's good to see and to do that. Because that's oftentimes is what you're given a bunch of content and you don't, the SME doesn't even know exactly what they do in the real world with this because they're in the academic world or something like that. And it's just like, that's how I said. So, given this thing, what are the real world tasks? Because then from there you can build the instruction.
No, you're exactly right. Yeah, you're exactly right. What would strengthen real world task authenticity? Now it's going to give you these ideas that it's coming up with. As here are some other things you could be doing.
So go all the way back to the beginning when you have your blank page and you're asking to start with something. What do you have already? But what if you didn't have a course map and you're with the SME? What are some of the first questions you would try to ask the SME using this?
Using this?
Yeah.
Well,
this is of course evaluator tool, so it's like
yeah. I mean, I have a tool that,
but I was wondering, like let's go back to your blank page and like, all right, we have to build a course that's performance based, and I have a SME. But
right.
Me and the SME, me and this AI kind of take us, how it could work.
Okay, well, this is going to be interesting to see if this actually does this. But all right, so maybe I would say something like, I need to design an 8-module course in AI ethics, or a professional development setting that is asynchronous and uses and uses generative AI as the basis for application and demonstration of ethical use of AI in various scenarios and industries. Something like that.
And while you're modeling, the longer the prompt, the better. Because I always said you develop a course in AI ethics, you're going to get
well, you're going to get crap.
Because it's not going to be performance based. It's just going to be like,
Right.
whatever.
So
So again,
make-
it's like,
so
yeah, you're giving those prompts that
make sure this is this is founded in performance / demonstration and aligned with first principles. Okay. Sorry.
the spelling count in AI
It
prompts.
doesn't. It doesn't. It's just embarrassing. Okay, here we go. So we'll just go. We'll just go with it. Right.
There you go, scenario based.
Yeah. So we've got, right. So it's going to be problem-centered learning, scenario-based, authentic application, demonstration, integration. So it's thinking already. Yeah. So here we go. Ethical AI and professional practice, responsible use of generative AI across industries.
Yeah, I like that they repeatedly. There's their performance things: analyze, observe, practice, defend,
Right.
and
Build.
build a workflow.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
There it is. It's all performance based, and it's all real world. It's not like
Right.
none of us. Max and I always laugh like, well, but where's the history of AI ethics in this?
Right. And look, here's the capstone thread that's going to run through all 8 modules. So it's even coming up with, with chunking.
Yeah, I mean, I love working with SMEs. And they go, well, they have to learn about the history of boats, and I'm like, no, you don't. You don't need to know
Right.
about the history of boats to drive a boat. Who cares? Just tell us how to drive a boat.
And the other thing I think this really models, which, I wouldn't have thought to do it this way. So I appreciate you doing this because, for one thing, it made me hold my breath that this was going to work.
So
Live.
this
Right.
is the evaluation tool. It's
Right.
not the course design tool.
It's not the course design tool, but I didn't know what tool you were going to show us. This is the
Right.
course evaluation tool, but the course design tool probably has the same logic behind it.
Right. It does. It has the same logic, but what's nice about it is that it pulls in other things. Like I've got a lot of other theories and things that are fueling it. And then also you can stack it with other things like the task analysis and all of that. You can stack it with other engines. This is just one, it's just one engine, but still, to your point, what I like about this is that, see, it's giving you the key concepts. And what I want to show you is this is not writing the course. This is literally just, this is outline. This is what I would start with an SME. What does this look like to you? And then we would start. Then we could actually start looking at what we would start doing next. Like here, learners create a bias prevention checklist for their profession.
Mm-hmm.
So, so it's pretty, it's pretty good. They might look at it and go, yeah, I don't really like, I think I would rather go with this or that or the other thing. And what's nice about that is that, let's say in module 7, yeah, okay. So let's say in module 7, I say, let's turn module 7 towards vibe coding and other uses of prompt engineering. So then, I can, okay, there we go. Ethical vibe coding, prompt engineering, and AI assisted creation. So now, that's very much the thing I could do with an SME right now and could get it working. So now it's made that change. And then it's going to show me all the different model structures. So yeah, so that's, yeah. Man, am I glad that worked. That was like,
well, I kind of like, what do I expect from the session? I'm like, well, okay, the course evaluation tool is good for evaluating the existing course, but you could do that paper-based. AI just makes it faster. Obviously, that, if you knew about first principles, or if you didn't know anything about first principles, then the course evaluation helps. But then my question was like, all right, how can I use AI to actually develop a course that follows the first principles when maybe I don't know the first principle very well? That's the goal on this one. And I have a SME who doesn't know anything about it. They think the course is all lecture. So it's just like, we could reverse engineer this and ask the same AI, can you make this same ethics course, make it lecture based with no performance? It'd be really interesting to see what that ugly prompt would look like.
Sure. You know what? I'm willing to do anything at this point. Now that I know, because at this
Let's see
point,
what it
whatever.
does. And it's just like, it probably will, hopefully it will say, this is not a good idea. So develop
Well,
an
I don't think it's going
AI
to do that.
ethics course that's lecture based.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's rewrite this course as lecture
Let's see
based.
if it actually will give us this is a bad idea. Because that's the problem with AI is that everything you ask it to do sounds like that's a great approach. I'm like, this is a terrible approach, but I hope it says that.
Equal. Let's see what it says.
They just have guided demonstrations and a structured case analysis.
I think it's gonna. That's what I thought was gonna happen.
More reflective, and it doesn't really have the real world stuff to it.
Well, let's ask it this: which is better? Let's just ask it. So, I mean, I don't know what it's gonna say, but let's just ask it.
This is really strongly instructional, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it makes it pretty.
If you want people to know about the ethics of AI, then yeah, it's probably the next one, but that's not performance based. It's just
Yeah, because it's not just a knowledge problem. Professionals have to evaluate and detect and assess, and they have to be, yeah. So these are applied cognitive performances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. It's like you're working with the SME and they have their approach for how they design a course because they came through 20 years of education and they think their idea of a course is better. And it's just like, well, let's compare your course format to this one and see what the issues are. And then now it's not like you arguing with it. It's just like, well, here's this AI that has all this research and it's following the first principles,
Right.
what the differences are. So it's just another use the tool.
Yeah, and the thing about it is it does give you it doesn't throw it away, this idea of a lecture-based version. It says, it's easier to scale, easier to produce. I don't know that it's easier for SMEs. I don't know if that's true, but it's lower cost, maybe. But it says here the main weakness is that the danger is ethical spectator learning, which is exactly right. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like
so then it talks about a hybrid. Maybe you need to do an hybrid because it doesn't know why I'm asking this. So, so it's desperately trying to give me whatever answers it thinks might help me make a decision because that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to be a partner.
Yeah, so here it is. I like that recognition. This is a compliance-oriented corporate training, then make the lecture thing. If it's actually professional that, you need to do this. It's kind of like it's asking you, what is the goal of this course? And sometimes often we're tasked with just building something so we have a course. The goal is to have a course. Or like, we ask them what is the performance? What do you want people to do at the end of this course? Pass the test with 5 true and false questions.
And I think, yeah, that's right.
So
So it's like, all right, we'll just build you an asynchronous slide turning e-learning course about AI ethics because that's easiest and fastest, which goes back to your first demo, which we did back in 2020. We built a lot of stuff really fast that wasn't performance based that learners didn't like.
Right. Exactly. I think
So
somebody was going to ask me something.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you. So when I was putting courses together as a professor, I would pick a topic. Let's say I wanted to teach a course on history of psychology. So my day one lecture might be on the topic of how did the early thinkers in history think about human thought? Okay. And I said, I want to talk about Thales. I want to talk about Socrates. I want to talk about the mind-body problem with Descartes. I want to just put those topics into day one of my lecture. How would this help me do that?
Well, I think there's a significant issue here, and that is that you are talking about a synchronous learning environment, and most everything that I'm designing is for an asynchronous environment, meaning that it's at very best being facilitated by an instructor, but all of the content's already there. So we're designing it first, and then the idea that you're posing, which still happens at the university, where we get an instructor who comes in and is designing a course, a tool like this could, I don't know that this tool is going to be all that helpful. We'd have to have the content tool, the course design tool, but it could help you put outlines together for yourself, or it could help. But the problem is that style of course design, where they're all coming to class and you're going to have a discussion about that in class, or you're going to do something for that hour and a half that you're there, or whatever that looks like. Um, that is not what I am typically designing. So these, or the folks that I'm working with are typically designing. So we're typically designing something that's going to sit in a learning management system and get taught over and over and over again by different facilitators. And so they're not really lecturing in the same way, and they're not really doing that. So this design is not.
I think Max's example of trying to explain tinnitus and how to treat it and all of that is a more concrete situation that this might be more amenable to.
Yeah, I think so.
Well,
But
and what's interesting is Merrill, he used to teach faculty members how to create task-centered courses. And he'd ask them why, okay, you're teaching the history of psychology. Why? And he'd keep asking why. Well, I want, what do you want learners to be able to do? And he'd keep asking why. And so he'd try to come up with, okay, you want learners to be able to analyze, from the history of psychology, analyze the different approaches and maybe apply those to different situations. I don't know. I'm thinking
yeah,
out
but
loud.
that's exactly the kind of stuff I would do too. I mean,
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
like, okay, how do I make this relevant to something they need to be able to know?
Yeah. And this tool could help do that. However, as Tim mentioned, the tool is like a smart intern or a smart graduate student. And so it will have access to all the information you could ever want, but it may be able to provide recommendations about, okay, here's some scenarios that you could ask students to address using, different psychological approaches.
I could see this being very good for disaster preparedness training, for example.
Sure. You bet. You
Right.
bet.
But
Absolutely.
for a statistics course, I'm not sure that this
Oh,
would work for me.
well,
Maybe
what-
it could.
You'd be
So
surprised.
what would be interesting for statistics? So for one of my pilot studies, we evaluated some statistics courses. And Merrill gave lower. I'm serious.
I
Merrill gave
believe it. I remember doing them.
anyway, Merrill gave a lower rating than I did. He said these are not whole tasks. And we evaluate. Okay. So it's just really interesting because you start thinking about, okay, if I'm teaching statistics, and I took some of those courses, and of course you taught them, Erwin. So what would be whole tasks? And so this tool could help identify those. But again, it's only a coach and you have to be smarter than the coach. Anyway,
I couldn't help but chuckle on the statistics because Bloomington, IU, instructional design, 1980, sitting there with Thiagarajan and some of the folks, and we were tasked to look at statistics classes. And our conclusion after all the analysis was do not let a mathematician teach statistics.
well, I'm sure.
Go get a really smart English teacher or something.
But
well.
anyway.
But one of the interesting things about a course like that is like when I used to teach about standard deviations at the beginning, people were going, "Oh, this is really hard." Then later in the course, when I was teaching linear regression, they would say to me, "Can't you give us something easy like standard deviation?" And so there's an experiential part of courses for certain kinds of courses that it's like you have to build up the learning before they get it, you know?
So,
Well,
Chris,
I do have another question. Uh, you know, something was asked, and your response about the tool was, well, you're not developing synchronous classes, you're doing asynchronous. The focus is the outcome of the learning as reflected in the performance, knowledge, performance, ability of the student. How can it be different?
well, and
If you're teaching asynchronous, synchronous, videotape, simulation, whatever, the fundamental question of what does the learner need to learn, and notwithstanding all the issues of the ridiculousness of trying to predict what the learner comes in with, is like, if it's fundamental, the method of instruction should make no difference.
Oh, I
I'll
don't
Now,
let
agree
I'll
with
let
obviously
that.
it
I don't
does.
agree with that.
I'll let
Good.
I'll let Tim answer that, and then Chris had a question
Chris has
too.
a good question. Yeah.
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 Yeah. No.
Otherwise, you're saying we can do it within the limitations of whatever method we're using, and it's going to be different.
Yeah.
And we get people all the time that want to argue, no, it doesn't make any difference. Well, it's one or the other. Okay,
Yeah.
enough for the old guy. Bye bye.
No, that's a good question. So yeah, I think that the problem isn't I'm not saying that the end goal of the learner isn't the same. The end goal of the learner is to be able to, especially if you're going to use Merrill's first principles, and end goal of the learner is a list of tasks that you want them to be able to do, perform, and a set of activities that help teach them how to perform those, and then a set of evaluations as to how to evaluate if they can perform them or not. So, I mean, that's the same whether you're doing synchronous or asynchronous. So I'm not trying to use those terms to hide behind. What I'm saying is what was posed to me is this type of instruction where you have an expert that's walking into a room that's about to give a lecture or going to do some sort of a demonstration live or going to have some sort of a live discussion. And would my tools be helpful in designing that instruction? Maybe, but I haven't really tested it designing that kind of instruction because that's not the kind of instruction that I'm typically designing. That's all I'm trying to say. I don't know. I don't know if it would be helpful or not. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe it would be helpful in designing that kind of instruction, but I'm designing instruction that is fully packaged, sitting, waiting to be um, facilitated. So it's just I'm not sure of the answer, so I don't know. But it's just not something that I'm not working with those kinds of faculty members. Those kinds of faculty members, I am developing tools like learning objective tools and other things that when they have to present those courses to the academic policy committee or something like that, that they can work out, they can design the foundational parts of a course like their learning objectives or like their alignments and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I have tools that help them with that, but I don't this what we're showing you today and designing courses that are fully digital. I don't know. I think it would, but I haven't tried that before.
And just a comment before Chris has his question, and that is live discussion is much more difficult online.
Right.
And so, I mean, you can have kind of delayed discussion with discussion threads, and potentially you could have live discussion with chat, but usually it's it's kind of a delayed sort of environment. And so that's one of the challenges if you need to have a synchronous live discussion. A lot of courses are not synchronous, they're not live. And sometimes you have the live option, periodically you meet live, but anyway, so that's not a perfect answer. However, the AI tools can give recommendations
Right.
for lectures, for live discussions, for discussion threads, for for anything like that. But again, you'll have to decide and figure out, okay, what's going to work for me. So, Chris, why don't you go ahead and ask your question? Chris's question is really good, by the way.
Thanks, Max. And Dr. Tim, I was just wondering if you've had situations, maybe not applicable here, but where the AI just can't say no. It has to, like, it knows everything. And to go through that whole list and find, because let's assume like you take that and I imagine it's part of the human out where there's some kind of governance there to check that, or it's built into the model.
Right. Yeah, because yeah, so there's a couple of things. Number one, so this tool that I showed you today, I provided it the information I wanted it to. So there's two provisions there, right? There's the provision of what I trained it on, which was, a huge amount of Merrill's first principles plus all the adjacent work to Merrill's first principles. And then I gave it what I wanted it to evaluate based on that, right? So no matter how much I work with it, it would take, I could probably go an hour or more without it starting to really hallucinate. I mean, if I keep asking it opposite questions over and over, there is a way to break it. I mean, but if I'm really just trying to get into it and just get information out of it and build something and then build like what we just did with Scott, build one thing for, performance based. Now let's build the same thing for a lecture. And it even came up with hybrid. We could have had more conversations about that. The idea is, one of the things I was holding my breath about was, that's not something I typically do on that tool. So I just didn't know what it was going to do, exactly. I didn't know if it would hallucinate earlier. I just didn't know. I haven't done that before. But as far as feeding it a course map, I know, we've tested it into the, 60th iteration, 70th iteration, just trying to get it to break. And most of our work behind the scenes is trying to break it so that we can rework it. We're just constantly doing that. So that's one thing. The other side, though, is in the course development tools. Like when we're actually using a course development tool, we instruct everybody to upload information to the tool. So, like for instance, if I were going to build a course on AI ethics, for instance, I didn't do this tonight, but I like, for instance, our college has their AI ethical standards. So I would have uploaded that as a part of it. I would have uploaded, maybe one of our staff members has written a book on AI ethics. And so I have that as a digital book. So I would have uploaded that. And then I would have given it a fair number of things. Maybe I'm the instructor and I have a book or I have articles. I found articles. So the idea is not to cut a corner and make this fast in a poor way. Because remember, my opening idea was I want to build better faster. So better can't be less. In fact, I want to be able to build even better. So the more that I give it, the more it's going to then it'll be much more honed in on that information. It's going to read that information. The more I give it, the less it goes out to try to pull in other information to fill in whatever it thinks the gaps are. I can't stop it from going out and trying to find something to fill in the gaps. So what we do is we inundate it with all the information that we want, and then it's less likely to hallucinate over those gaps. So that's kind of how we work around it. And like I said, we're in the constant state of trying to break it, just to see if break all these tools, just to see what it can't do, so that then we can go back in and reevaluate how to fix that, or if it needs to be fixed. So yeah, I mean, so at some level, I don't know that it. Yeah, I know. I think I know what you're asking me about, not saying no. It's going to keep trying to find an answer. These AIs are built in a way that it wants to please the user. So it's going to keep trying to find what you want. And then ultimately, you're right. When you can get it to a point where it just doesn't even know it'll start to break down. But that's pretty far out there. right now.
Right. Thanks for the answer. And I just real world application for, the corporate world is peer reviews, send a storyboard for peer review to get another set of eyes on it, like takes it out, like, so it shortens that timeline. So
Right.
thanks for the demonstration.
Yeah, you bet.
That's
So-
kind of a version of what I was trying to say is like if I could structure a course on the left-hand column and say, here's the things this chunk of the course is going to do.
Yeah.
And then your tool could look at that list and then point to things and say, well, you ought to put an example in here. You ought to do this over here so that I can see them simultaneously and not have to work backwards as was implied here. Instead of taking this giant summary of what is could be added to the course, if I just said, here's part of what I'm doing, give me feedback about how I could really help make this better.
Yeah, when we were at AECT and we did the build-a-thon there with everybody, we used a different tool. We used the course builder tool, and it did exactly what you're saying. We fed in the information, and then it's starting to give information. It would start making those recommendations. Yeah, you should do this here, and we could ask it something else, and it would put evaluation models together for them, and what might be a better evaluation. Is this the way it's, it did all of that to try to help them create the course as it went. Using this particular tool to do that is kind of like using a spoon to screw in a screw. I mean, you can use it for that and it'll work in a pinch, right? But that tool is a really finely tuned screwdriver that's made, to fit that particular need. But yes, that is the way it's built. So yes, for an on-grounder, uh, that would be a useful tool. Yeah, we do have some of our on-ground professors that are using some of our tools to help with that, like help build better assessments, help build better rubrics. We have a rubric tool, help build, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Mhm.
So Tim, technically what you could do, like you can go back to your example of you have to design a course about the university's AI policy, but you could upload the AI policy and ask the AI, make this performance based with real world scenario.
You can, absolutely.
Because that's the key thing. It's like you're tasked with something like whatever the policy X.
Right.
Tasked with that. Now it's like, well, how do we make this real world scenario? And it would, based on its previous experience with building lots of courses that are real world task based, it could come up with
Right.
similar kind of things. It goes back to I remember 20 years ago at the Yagi workshop, and he was just like, okay, here's all the things you can do for HR policy training. And it was just like, it was
Right.
amazing. Just that he was the human AI. He had just a 1,000 different ways for people to engage with content. Again, it wasn't, some of it was performance based, but it was mainly just ways to engage with content. And so, so your course builder tool, could you just demo what how's that different than the one you just showed us? Can you show us that real quick?
You'd like to see the course builder?
Sure. Yeah. Okay, hang on just a second.
But even, is there a whole list of tools somewhere?
There
Yeah,
is.
we'll show
Yeah,
you.
I'll show you. Yeah. All right, let's see.
The course evaluation tool, that's good, but course builder tool, yeah, what are all the tools?
Right, so they're here in the AI lab toolbox for FPI. Right now we have a course evaluator. Boodlebox is where it's built. We have a course. This is the academic version of the Course Forge for higher ed. Then we have a L&D version of the Course Forge. They're slightly different. I mean, you could probably use one for the other, but we have some slight guardrails built into academic over the LD. And then we have this task analysis generator, and I have a problem of practice generator that I'm just about finished with. That'll be here next. So we would come here to the one on L&D or academic, it doesn't matter. And then it's going to bring me here to this area right here, which is under Boodlebox. And this is instanced off. This is all extremely safe to put anything proprietary in. And I just start a new chat here. Okay, let me log in here.
Can't find you. You're the originator, and I can't find you.
Yeah, I always love it when this happens. Let's see.
Tim,
Hang
do
on.
you have any evidence that people who go through one of these design courses do better than the other people that didn't go through that design course?
I do not. No, I do not.
Just
I am in a research I'm currently doing research on another platform that I created for discussions, and we have built some courses using that tool in certain areas, and we are doing some research on the use of that for engagement and better student outcomes through um, discussion engagements, and I'll be working on that for about a year. So then I'll have some numbers on that particular kind of implementation. But I am kind of starting to work on that at the moment. So
right now we only have expert review. I teach an instructional design theories and models class based on first principles for Tim's graduate program. And basically is the face validity test. I review courses that students develop and predict their effectiveness, but it'd be fun to have research on actual effectiveness and what kind of performance their students are able to achieve.
yeah, something is going on here. I can't get into my own account, so I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening here. Hmm. Hang on a second.
I had the reputation of being the hard instructor in the psychology department, and I got more students through my stat courses with A's and B's than the easy instructors did, and I gave hard exams.
because they're probably performance based. It's like
Pretty well, yeah, they had to do stuff in order to
yeah, they
be
No.
didn't
able
do
to
stuff.
pass.
It's
So Rio McBride, I was telling you about him a little bit earlier. He's done some evaluations, student evaluations of courses that he's done. He's created, based on first principles. And the student response is that, overall they love first principles. Their projects are more robust. Their projects are more advanced, based on first principles. So again, it'd be fun to have more, more data about, the effectiveness, not just the opinions of students.
so Max and Tim, so you gave us access to the RUI AI Learning Lab. What should we do next? What do we do tomorrow with this? Our integration.
So in a few minutes, Tim will give you access to the tool, and then you'll be able to go in and load in courseworks, course outlines,
Try it out.
syllabi,
Okay.
and see
And
how
how do
your
we
course
get and if we get stuck or we want to get feedback how well it is or isn't working, how do we contact you guys?
Yeah, we'll give you our emails.
Okay. I mean, I know how to reach them, but it's like that's the key thing. It's like it's probably within the
Well, and
within the whatever that site is called.
and you can go ahead and share our emails, with everybody, but we'll put them up. We'll put them in here. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, we got kind of
Sorry
Go ahead.
guys. I'm totally down over here.
No
So
worries.
but listen,
We're at time anyway because it's
All right.
but we're just kind of figure out the integration because that's a good
Yeah.
design is like, okay, what do we do tomorrow with this? And we get a chance to go play with it, and we've seen kind of a demo. We didn't get to practice it yet. We'll get to practice it tomorrow, and then again, every good instructor like, how do we reach out to you? And so yeah,
So here in the chat, I put my email for the university. I
Yeah.
also put a link, a use motion link that if you want to get on my calendar and meet with me, that you can do it that way.
Great.
And so that way we can have time together if
Yeah.
you wanted to ask me questions or whatever. I have already accepted all of you that put in memberships. So if you want, hang on just a second. If you missed that opportunity, Here's the link. If you want to click on it and do that now, you can. That'll take you to that place where you can sign up for free if you want to do that. That's the same link as the QR code used. So if you want to do that, I'll sit here for a minute, and if people come in, I can let you in. But those of you that already did that, I think there were 4 or 5 of you. I already let you in. So just refresh. You should be able to get in.
And then we just go to classroom and then go to.
No, you go to Elmo. Just go down to Elmo. And when you go to Elmo, click on free FPI course evaluator tool. It's the first thing, first line. And it'll take you right there.
It says, welcome to the lab. Oh, there's Elmo.
Yeah, just
I
go to
see it.
Elmo. Because you guys won't have access to the classroom yet.
There it is. Click here to access the free course evaluator tool. Okay.
Right, click there and it should come right up.
Cool. There it is. Thanks. I got it.
And so Joanne was humbled with some of her courses. And she's like a 5-star expert, first principles expert. So, but what's interesting is where else can you have an evaluation tool that will give recommendations based on first principles?
I can do it. You give me, I can review this. Not as fast
Okay.
as the AI,
So just call Scott.
if you gave me a course syllabus, I can evaluate how much I did. Like, I'd use Max's rubric and just like, where's the railroad task? Where's the application? Where's the demo? Where's the integration? I could
And
do it, but I wouldn't be able to type out. I couldn't type out as fast as
you
evaluation as
can
the AI tool.
can do as fast and give all the recommendations.
Recommendations, no, but it's like I think again, I think the key principle is that each human the hi ho human oversight. So thanks again for your demo. Yeah, it'd be interesting again to connect and keep following up with this and try it out. So thanks everyone for attending tonight, and we'll post the recording, I don't know, tomorrow or early next week. Depends when we can get around, when it finishes up, and then we'll again, there's the information to follow with Tim and stuff. So thanks again for the review on first principles and seeing how well it works. So thanks again.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.